July 13th, 1941, near Raseiniai, Lithuania. The morning fog lay low over the rolling fields and narrow roads of western Lithuania. It was a quiet kind of fog, heavy and unmoving, the kind that softened sound and shortened sight lines. For the German soldiers of the 6th Panzer Division, advancing east as part of Operation Barbarossa, the silence felt temporary. They had been moving forward for weeks now. The Red Army, they believed, was already broken. The invasion of the Soviet Union had begun on June 22, 1941. In just over 3 weeks, German armored spearheads had torn through the Baltic states, destroyed entire Soviet formations, and pushed hundreds of miles into enemy territory. German commanders were confident, some openly dismissive, of what remained ahead of them. Soviet tanks were considered inferior, poorly led, and badly deployed. Soviet resistance, when encountered, usually collapsed under coordinated armor, artillery, and air power. That confidence would be tested on a narrow road near the Debaisa River. The German 6th Panzer Division was advancing toward Raseiniai, tasked with securing crossings and maintaining momentum toward the interior. Fuel trucks, artillery tractors, and infantry transports moved in long columns behind the leading elements. Speed was everything. Delays could expose the division's flanks and disrupt the timetable of the entire army group. Somewhere along that road, hidden by trees and uneven ground, a single Soviet heavy tank had been left behind. It was a KV-1. The KV-1 was not like the tanks German crews were used to destroying. Weighing over 45 tons, armored with up to 90 millimeters of steel in places, and armed with a 76.2 millimeters main gun, it had been designed with a different philosophy than most pre-war tanks. It was slow, mechanically strained, and difficult to maintain, but it was heavily protected in a way that German tank guns in 1941 were not prepared to counter. German intelligence knew of the KV series in theory. Few had seen one in combat. That was about to change. The Soviet tank had become separated from its unit during the chaotic fighting of the previous days. Soviet formations in the area were in retreat, surrounded, or destroyed. Communications had collapsed. Orders were unclear or non-existent. For the crew inside the KV-1, withdrawal was no longer possible. Fuel was limited. Ammunition was finite. But the road ahead of them, the German supply route, was full. The decision the crew made was simple and irreversible. They positioned the tank astride the road, near a bend where visibility was short and the ground soft on either side. Trees and undergrowth prevented easy flanking. The KV-1's engine was shut down to conserve fuel. The crew waited. When the first German vehicles appeared, they did not look like a threat. Unarmored trucks rolled forward, carrying fuel drums, ammunition crates, and rations. Motorcycle scouts had already passed through earlier and seen nothing. The road seemed clear. Then the Soviet tank opened fire. The first shell struck a fuel truck at close range. The explosion engulfed the road in flame and smoke. A second round tore into an artillery tractor. Within seconds, the narrow road was blocked by burning wreckage at the front of the column. Panic rippled backward. Drivers tried to reverse, only to find more vehicles behind them. The KV-1 began firing methodically. Each shot was deliberate, each impact catastrophic. German soldiers scrambled for cover, diving into ditches and tree lines. Small arms fire rattled against the tank's hull, useless and desperate. The Soviet crew did not rush. They had no reason to. Within minutes, the column was paralyzed. German officers attempted to assess the situation. At first, many assumed it was an anti-tank gun or a small group of tanks. Orders were given to bring forward 37mm anti-tank guns, the standard German Pak 36, nicknamed the door knocker by its own crews for its ineffectiveness against heavy armor. When the guns were deployed and opened fire, the results were immediate and deeply unsettling. Shells struck the KV-1 and bounced off. Crews adjusted aim. They fired again and again. The shells left marks on the armor, but no penetration. The Soviet tank responded by turning its turret and destroying the guns one by one. Each German position was eliminated as soon as it revealed itself. The realization spread quickly. This was no ordinary tank. German tank units were called forward. Panzer 35T and Panzer III tanks maneuvered into firing positions, attempting to flank the Soviet vehicle. They fired from multiple angles, targeting vision ports, tracks, and turret ring. Nothing worked. The KV-1 absorbed the hits and kept firing. By midday, the road remained blocked. The German advance had stopped entirely in that sector. Fuel and ammunition could not get through. Infantry units were stalled. Commanders grew increasingly concerned. A single enemy tank was holding up an entire division. Attempts were made to attack the KV-1 with infantry assault teams. Engineers crept forward under cover, trying to place explosive charges on the tracks or rear engine deck. Machine gun fire from the tank forced them back. Those who reached the hull found that their charges were insufficient. The armor held. German artillery was brought up. Field guns fired from longer range, hoping to damage or disable the tank. The KV-1 was hit repeatedly. Its crew endured concussive blasts, deafening noise, and shrapnel ricocheting inside the hull. Still, the tank did not move. As the day wore on, the situation became increasingly surreal. German soldiers moved freely around the immobilized Soviet tank, unable to destroy it, but careful not to approach its gun. The KV-1's presence dominated the battlefield, a silent, immovable obstacle. Only late in the day did German commanders manage to bring up one weapon capable of dealing with it: the 88mm anti-aircraft gun. The 88 was not designed as a tank killer, but its high-velocity rounds could penetrate armor that other weapons could not. Under cover of darkness, the gun was maneuvered into position. Infantry distracted the Soviet crew with renewed attacks from the front, drawing the tank's attention. When the 88 fired, the effect was immediate. The shell penetrated the KV-1's armor. One or two more rounds followed. The Soviet tank fell silent. When German soldiers approached the vehicle, they did so cautiously. The tank was scarred with dozens of impact marks. Many shells lay scattered around it, spent and useless. Inside, the Soviet crew was dead, killed by the final penetrations or by the cumulative effects of hours under fire. The road was finally cleared. The delay had lasted nearly a full day. In the context of the vast Eastern Front, a single day might seem insignificant. But in the opening weeks of Operation Barbarossa, timing was critical. Fuel shortages, stretched supply lines, and unexpected resistance were already slowing the German advance. Incidents like this one, multiplied across thousands of miles, began to erode the illusion of an easy victory. For the German soldiers who witnessed it, the engagement left a lasting impression. It challenged their assumptions about Soviet equipment and resolve. It demonstrated that underestimation carried consequences. For the Red Army, the action near Raseiniai became one of many early examples of isolated resistance, often improvised, often doomed, but sometimes remarkably effective. The names of the KV-1's crew were not recorded. Their orders, if any existed, were never found. What remained was the fact itself. One tank, cut off and alone, had stopped an entire German column. Not through superior numbers, not through coordination, but through positioning, armor, and a refusal to abandon the fight. In the summer of 1941, as the war in the East was just beginning, That refusal mattered more than anyone yet understood.